well, this was unexpected. Guys, before we get into the drama that's happening between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we post a video, because sometimes we have some hot takes on some timely drama like we do today. Let's talk about Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire. First, I'll give you a little bit of background. Now, both of these entities have both put out videos. Steven Crowder has his video about the situation. Jeremy Boring, who is the owner and operator of the Daily Wire, also responded to his video, and I encourage you to watch both of those either before or after you go through my thoughts on this. But overall, what has happened is that Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire got into discussions about what a possible contract would look like.
Deal or no deal?
With Steven Crowder working for the Daily Wire. Steven Crowder was very unhappy with the initial proposal that was sent over. That wasn't a contract that he had to sign, just a proposal that was going to go into a phase of negotiations with the Daily Wire.
The negotiations were short.
And instead of maybe having a conversation with the Jeremy Boring, which was seemingly an option that was on the table, Steven Crowder took to the internet and posted a video about it being time to talk about something he deemed the big con. Now let's go through this proposal, at least from an outside perspective and maybe a bird's eye view. I'm not going to get into too much of the nitty gritty, but it's important to note this is a $50 million proposal, guys.
$50 million?
$50 million.
Straight cash, homie.
I cannot fathom that kind of money. I cannot fathom having a conversation with another business about this kind of money. So I want to keep that in mind. And I will say the $50 million aspect of this proposal was not mentioned in Steven Crowder's initial video, which I will hold off placing judgment on, but I think is important to note. Why not talk about that total when we're having a discussion about a big proposal like this? So Steven starts off by saying, you know, I might have to quit. I might have to quit making the show. I might have to quit being active on YouTube and all these other platforms and quit doing what I'm doing.
Hey, listen, I quit.
Because of something that has recently happened to me, referring to this proposal from the Daily Wire. In this $50 million proposal, Steven seemingly was very upset about penalties that would be placed on his income. And some of this can be a little bit difficult to understand if you're just looking at the legal language of a proposal. But basically what was happening here is Steven was offered this $50 million contract over the space of 4 years. So that's like $1 million a month, guys. That's a lot of money. And in the contract, they wrote out what would happen if Steven were to, say, lose 50% of his sponsors, those ad reads that you guys hear on Daily Wire's podcast that Ben Shapiro and Brett Cooper and all of their personalities do. If he lost 50% of those, the Daily Wire would have to work to get those ad sponsorships back. But if they couldn't get those ad sponsorships back within a period of 90 days, Steven was going to be penalized at a certain percentage, and a percentage that was far lower than 50%. I believe it was 20 to 25%. You can check out his video or Jeremy's to get the full details on that. He could also be penalized for missing show recordings, which he was expected to have a certain number of per year. I believe something to the tune of 190 or 192, somewhere in that ballpark. And if he missed a certain amount of episodes, he would be penalized because that is content that the Daily Wire is expecting him to make, and they're expecting a certain amount of revenue from that content. And Steven, of course, was upset about these penalties and said that the penalties were far too high, and he's often demonetized on platforms like YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, and he would expect an organization like the Daily Wire to be sympathetic to being demonetized. He even went on to make the accusation that the Daily Wire might be in the pocket of or have a very close relationship with big tech, even though they claim to be a company that is calling out big tech corruption and collusion with the government. Basically, his argument is, if you're going to penalize me for being demonetized, for saying things from a conservative perspective, we all know that's going to happen. So I'm going to take on the punishment for being who I am and espousing my conservative beliefs, which when you hear that, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense to be upset about that.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I often take the perspective of, I want to look at people in good faith, and I think the Daily Wire is on the side of criticizing big tech and really taking them to task. So why would they need to penalize Steven for losing this income and losing this revenue? It's probably because they're incurring a lot of the risk when it comes to taking Steven on.
Is it worth the risk?
$50 million over 4 years, not even counting the amount of employees they're paying for to work on his content, to market his content, to do all these things on the back end. So all of that needs to be taken into account. And this is not to say that Steven is wrong for having his perspective or that Daily Wire is correct for having theirs. It's just to say that there are different ways that you can run your business or be a content creator. And this is something that all people should be aware of going into any form of business or any form of work. There is a line of work where you work for yourself and you do things independently and you take on full risk. And there's a line of work where you sign a contract with somebody else and they take on the risk of having you on. And you have full rights to choose either of those options for yourself. And it seems like Steven is an independent person and Daily Wire was not the company for him. But let's get into the response here. This video goes out on Steven Crowder's page. It has over 1 million views now, and Steven is asking for emails to stop the big con and to call out what's happening in these big conservative companies. And the Daily Wire sat and was quiet for a very short period of time. And I do want to commend Jeremy Boring for hopping on this and saying, you know, we're just going to be transparent. He posted a video last night going through the contract in its entirety and talking about why the Daily Wire wrote things the way they did and the fact that this was simply a proposal, that they expected Steven Crowder to come to the table in full force saying, I want to change this, I want to change this, I want to change this. And they expected many losses on the initial proposal, as would any company. I know we ladies, we don't always come to the table and negotiate, but we should. Because you should never take the first offer that is placed on the table for you. Never! So that's cannon fodder for Steven. He shouldn't be expected to take that first offer, nor should Jeremy expect that that's going to be the end of it. We send the email, we shoot over the proposal, and that is it. Now, again, I commend him for being transparent. And when you look into this and you find out that it is actually a $50 million contract, in my opinion, a lot of the asks written in that contract, as far as showing up and having your shows recorded in a timely manner and having the number of shows that you're supposed to have per calendar year, that makes sense to me. Losing ad sponsorships, which means Daily Wire is losing money, you should expect that to affect your income as well, because how else are they going to pay you the $50 million that they've proposed in this contract? And that doesn't mean that they're beholden to big tech. It just simply means that that's the structure of their for-profit business. You would think that the ads that are placed on Daily Wire's podcast, you know, when Ben Shapiro hops on and says you should buy a Casper mattress, those companies, for the most part, are in line with Daily Wire's views. So it would be very unexpected to lose 50% of your ad sponsors.
Hey, I doubt it.
But they want to account for that happening just in case it does. These are things that you have to do as a business. Now, that really goes over my general thoughts on the proposal set forth. I think the response to this was really overblown, and I think a lot of this could have been minimized had the two entities just had a conversation. Jeremy did express that he did try to talk to Steven about this and go back and forth on a phone call, and that simply did not happen. And I think that was a very unfortunate missed opportunity here, because this did not need to be aired out in the public space. This is something that these two guys who are very long-time friends.
I'm really miserable to be making this video. Steven's been my friend for 10 years. I think he's maybe the most talented person working in the conservative media space.
Could have had a conversation about and worked out. And even if that meant Steven going his separate way, that would have been fine. They could continue to work together, continue to have projects together, but one in a company space and one in an independent space. And a note that I really want to talk about that was really present in Steven's video is him talking about discouraging young creators from coming into the space and signing contracts like this. I think at one moment he held up the contract and said, if you're a young creator who wants to do this and wants to do what I do not sign contracts like this. Do not enter these sort of agreements. And while I understand his frustration with what he saw, There are plenty of people all across the United States in the conservative space or in any form of content creation that would be happy to take on a contract like that, happy to sign a business proposal like that, or at least come to the table and negotiate. There are those who want to be independent, and there are those who want to work for a company like Daily Wire. And to discourage people from working with an entity that would support their values and support them financially, that doesn't seem like the smartest move to me. You should take in and field all these offers and look at them and go, that's one for me or that's not. And at the end of the day, there's virtually 3 different options you'll have. Working independently and working for yourself, taking on all the risk, signing for a company and having them take on all the risk, and 3, doing a mixture of both. You can work with people like Daily Wire and you can still do your thing on your own, which would have been the solution here, in my opinion, for Steven Crowder and Jeremy Boring. And it's just disheartening to see young people and up-and-coming creators be discouraged from taking what could be massive opportunities for them.
The rule, kids out there coming up, we need to build a bench here in this movement. It's almost impossible. Don't sign these contracts.
Look at a person like Brett Cooper, who signed to Daily Wire a matter of months ago and is now a household name within the conservative space. Those are opportunities that are lying out on the table for people who are trying to get involved with a company like that, and that should be explored, as well as exactly what Steven's doing, which was a very smart model of going independent and allowing your audience to speak for itself and to guide you in your own pursuit of working for yourself and being your own boss. And I hate to see infighting between 2 different groups that could very well be working together for years now, working on the same projects, have the same values, and are seemingly fighting the same fight. Overall, my thoughts on this is that it was unnecessary and seemingly the result of a massive misunderstanding that could have been hammered out with a simple phone call. So I hope that this all is worked out. I'm awaiting Steven Crowder's response to Jeremy Boring's video that was posted last night, because it was exposing in a sense, and it was very transparent. So I hope both of these men go forward in their own endeavors. Hopefully they enter the fight again back together to work on projects, and don't feel discouraged in any way, shape, and form for any sort of job that you're trying to take on, and follow your own path, whether it's an independent one or one where you're working for somebody else. That's okay. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did this video enlighten you in any way? Did it change your perspective? Were you Team Steven or Team Daily Wire? You know, I sit probably on the side of Daily Wire in a sense, but I understand Steven's perspective. And I think, again, you're going to have these 2 camps of people, and they should be able to work together, and they should be able to follow their own values and purpose and passion and see where that links up in the middle. And it's just disheartening to see 2 people who are very respected fight it out like this in the public square. But let me know your thoughts and opinions. I'm open to more perspectives, as I'm not sure we have all the information when it comes to this squabble. Guys, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we post a video for you guys, which is daily. And yeah, let me know what you think.